Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of Andrewsfootball.com, and I got my very first email at askandrewsfootball at yahoo.com. A buddy of mine sent me an email. You know, he did kind of doing me a favor, checking it out. But anyway, Scott, thanks a lot. I appreciate the email. And then it's funny, the same comment was posted by John Smith in one of my comments, and that's, what about Andrew Luck retiring? And I'm glad I got this comment, because it's something I'm glad I'm going to be able to talk about. First off, to all the fans that booed Andrew Luck when he retired, you spend a lot of money on these tickets, so you got every right to go ahead and boo. But it's kind of like this. Let's say you go, I live here in the Midwest. There's a lot of nice steakhouses here. Let's say you go, barbecue also. But let's say you go and you buy a $50 steak, and you go ahead and you put ketchup on it. All right? Can you do that? Yeah, it's your steak. You paid the $50 for it, but should you? Of course not. It's a stupid move. Same type of thing here, right? Booing a guy because his body is not able to recover and handle the rigors of being in the NFL. Do you realize how hard it is to be an NFL player, especially a quarterback? I mean, this is a guy who's a tough guy, and his body's simply not responding. So I don't have a problem with Andrew Luck retiring. Yes, if you're one of those fans who bought a ticket and you booed Andrew Luck, I think you're a jerk. But hey, it's your ticket. You can do what you want. You spent the money. So yeah, you can also put ketchup on a $50 steak. That's your call. All right. Now, what's going to happen with the Colts, first of all? Jacoby Brissett's an excellent quarterback. This is a guy who I really believe that I really thought in a couple years from now he would get an opportunity to be a starting NFL quarterback. I think Colts fans and a lot of people around the NFL are going to be really, really impressed with this guy. This is a good quarterback. Now, is he going to be an Andrew Luck caliber quarterback? Absolutely not. I mean, this was an MVP candidate. He's not going to be that good, but he's going to be really good. I think people are really going to be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he has 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns. If you're a fantasy fan, and a lot of those drafts are over, but if you can pick this guy up, pick him up. He's going to put up some good numbers this year. I think he's really going to surprise people. What I predict the future will hold is that I think the Colts are going to be about a 500 team, okay, instead of going to the playoffs. And I didn't think they were as good as the Patriots, Chiefs, or Chargers, but are they good enough to get into the playoffs? And anytime you get in the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen. I would be surprised if they made the playoffs, but they could get in 9-7, maybe a year that 9-7 can get you a wild card spot, and who knows? Brissett's a good quarterback, all right. So it's not like you got the 30th ranked quarterback in the league. This guy's a lot better than people think. What I believe will happen is Brissett's going to play well enough to warrant a good draft pick, and then the Colts will parlay that into moving up the draft board. So that's what I see happening. I think Brissett will leave and be the starter for another team in 2020. And I think the Colts will draft a quarterback maybe at number 1 if they can get up that high. It'll be very interesting to see what they do in the offseason in the draft. If you've been following my channel, you know I talk draft stuff. So that's going to be really interesting. And then to answer John Smith, yes, I got the Titans winning the division currently. I didn't before. I would have thought it's Colts, Texans, but Lamar Miller, he tore his ACL. He's out for the year. So I still think the offensive line is going to be a work in progress, but now that you got your number 1 running back, who I think they're really counting on this year, now that he's out, it's going to be really interesting to see what the Texans do. I think the Texans defense is probably better than the Titans defense, but when you lose your star running back, and your offensive line was kind of a work in progress to begin with. Yeah, John, I agree with you. I got the Titans winning the division. I don't think they're a great team. I think they could win the division being 9-7, maybe 10-6. That division is going to be really interesting to watch, but it's kind of a shame. My prediction is Andrew Luck comes back. I actually think he's going to sit out 2 years. I think in 2021, he's going to come back. He's going to be healthy. He's just going to say, hey, look, can I play? For those of you, I'm not a big basketball fan, but Michael Jordan came back after a couple years. Situation's a little different, But bottom line, I think Luck will sit out this year. He'll recover. He'll enjoy himself. I think 2020 will come around, and he'll start to get his love back. He'll watch these quarterbacks, and he'll go, I'm better than 20 or 25 of these guys, and he's still young enough that he could come back into the league. So, matter of fact, Randall Cunningham, I don't know if you would call it a retirement. I think it was a retirement. He came back and was a backup for 98 Vikings, came back on MVP. So it's not unheard of for a star quarterback to leave, come back, and be a good player. So I do think Andrew Luck comes back. I got 2021. But that's what I got. John, you nailed it here. I think he retires. I think the Titans win the division. Brissett's going to be better than people think, but I think in 2020, the Colts are going to try to go all in on a quarterback in the draft that they just fall in love with. Now, the Golden Rooster made a comment on my YouTube channel. Is he asked me to comment on Antonio Brown and the Raiders, and it's really a shame. Because Antonio Brown, if you're an NFL wide receivers coach, you should be showing every late round draft pick and every undrafted free agent clips of Antonio Brown, because this was a former 6th round pick out of Central Michigan who at the time the Steelers were loaded at wide receiver. They didn't need a wide receiver. They drafted him just to return punts. That was the only thing he was supposed to do. And this guy just worked his butt off and ended up becoming a starter, then ended up becoming a Pro Bowler. But when you think about Antonio Brown, you think about all this stupid drama. I remember the first time that I remember him just being bigger or just having a diva type personality is when he live streamed the Tomlin after they beat my Chiefs in the playoffs. He put it on Facebook, and it's like, dude, what the hell are you doing? And I think he even got Tomlin on video saying, make sure your devices are off here, man. Let's talk. It's just us. And so basically, the way I see Antonio Brown is that this is a guy who can't handle fame. This is a guy who, early in his career, you heard nothing about him. All this guy did was work his butt off, and he went from a 6th round pick, which you're not even supposed to make the team if you're a 6th round pick, to being one of the 2-3 best receivers in football, if not the best receiver in football, putting up Hall of Fame numbers. And his story should be great, but when you think about Antonio Brown, you're going to think about the helmet deal and the Facebook and the frostbite thing and trying to sue the NFL and just being kind of a jerk and a diva. And it's really a shame, because every single wide receiver coach in the NFL should tell every late round draft pick and every undrafted rookie free agent wide receiver that comes into the room, hey, this guy was just like you. You work hard. You can get this money. You can get this endorsements. You can act like a jerk if you want to. So that's kind of what I think, is that his story is kind of tragic, because this is a guy whose story you should be telling, every single NFL player about, every upcoming player about. Instead, it's more of a cautionary tale. Don't act like this guy. So what does it mean for him and the Raiders? Well, it's kind of funny, because I think I've been watching the Hard Knocks. I'm assuming you guys have too. But one thing about John Gruden is, if you remember, he was a wide receiver, or he was a former wide receivers coach. And if you notice, everywhere Gruden goes, he wants veteran wide receivers. So it wasn't surprised that he tried to get a veteran wide receiver like Antonio Brown. He was a big fan of Antonio Brown's. Made no qualms about it. Really wanted this guy. And everywhere he's gone, he's always wanted veteran wide receivers. Remember, he was with the Raiders. He brought in Jerry Rice. He went to Tampa Bay, brought in Keenan McCardell. Now he's back with the Raiders, brings in Antonio Brown. That's no secret. If Gruden ends up leaving the Raiders, goes to another team, I guarantee he's going to go after a veteran wide receiver. But when he was the offensive coordinator in Philly, they had Randall Cunningham, who was a superstar at the time, actually benched him for Bubby Brister, a journeyman quarterback who bounced from team to team. Then he goes to the Raiders, where he's first-time head coach. He ends up bringing in journeyman Rich Gannon, goes from team to team. And Gannon and Gruden were just perfect for each other. Rich Gannon, if you don't know, this is a dude who went to Richmond, bounced around the league, an old school Philly guy. This guy was as tough as a 99-cent steak. And Gruden loved this dude. Matter of fact, it was a story. It's like the very first practice, Gannon came in, he threw his helmet and started chewing everybody out because the practice was so lackluster. They weren't giving maximum effort, so he started chewing everybody out. And people were like, "What's going on? What's this going on?" I mean, he was ready to fight every single person on that practice field, and that's the type of guy Rich Gannon was. But when I watch Hard Knocks, and I already knew this, before I saw Hard Knocks, but Derek Carr's not that type of guy. When he went to Tampa Bay, he won with Brad Johnson, a guy that, was the quarterback in Minnesota. Then when he got hurt, Randall Cunningham came in, kind of a weird circle how that works. And then he goes down to Tampa Bay. He's a journeyman. And it seems like Gruden likes these journeyman quarterbacks that got the big chip on their shoulder and that just like being ticked off. When you watch Derek Carr, he doesn't have that personality. So the key to the Raiders' success is, does Gruden and Carr match? Does Gruden buy into Derek Carr? Does Derek Carr buy into Gruden? Or would it be better if these two guys split? Maybe, who knows? Maybe he gets traded to Indianapolis. I don't know. But I don't see Derek Carr being the type of guy that John Gruden really likes. That's just my impression. So what about Antonio Brown? I think 10 years from now, you'll see Antonio Brown on TV really regretting a lot of his actions. I think he'll be public and say, "Hey, I should have never left Pittsburgh. I just, all the publicity, all the hype got to me. Being a star got to me. Hey, listen, you know what? I'm wearing a gym shirt. I'm going to go to the gym after I do this video. I'm going to work out. Let's say I go to the gym and I got 3 or 4 people saying, "Dan, your channel's the greatest channel of all time." Maybe my head gets a little bigger. Maybe I get a little too big for my britches. Fame and status and money is something that's very hard, to work with sometimes. Sometimes it's too much for people. And that's the impression I get with Antonio Brown, is that this is a guy that when he was working his butt off from nowhere was a great story. Then he becomes famous and kind of becomes like a diva and a jerk. That's just my opinion. How will he do at the Raiders? I think he'll have some good numbers. I think he'll have some great games. But I don't see him having the same success that he had with Pittsburgh. And I think when he retires, he'll admit that he probably should have never left. I don't think it's a good move for the Raiders. But the Raiders, on the other hand, I think the Raiders, it's all about Gruden and Carr and how they match. Because right now, I just because I know the history of Gruden, I don't think Derek Carr is a Gruden guy. That's my opinion. That's what I think. But if these two guys, believe in each other and these two guys work, don't be surprised if the Raiders end up getting a wild card this year. I mean, the team's got some talent, but I've watched enough Hard Knocks episodes to know the difference between a good team and a bad team. This does not look like a good team. This to me is like a building block team. But when they arrive in Vegas, if Gruden and Carr both believe in each other when they get to Vegas, that's going to be a difficult team to contend with. But this year, I wouldn't. To me, this looks like a 6-7 win team, just from what I've seen on Hard Knocks, and I've seen every single one. And to me, I'm not looking at a good team right now. So listen, hey, John, Golden Rooster, and Scott, thanks for your comments, and thanks for the email. Listen, if you're a subscriber to Andrews Football, you already know you're one of the greatest people on planet Earth. All your wildest dreams are going to come true. Listen, check out some of my playlists are over here. No, playlists are over here. Subscribe button's down here. So, bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. Have a great week. I'm going to have a video for you on Wednesday.